Hello and welcome to Salty About Health. My name is Dalaney and I'm here with my mom and co-host, Mary. So, Mom, why are we salty about health?
Good question. It's because both of us have had struggles, some more serious than others, and no one showed us simple ways we could jump into the driver's seat and take control.
And why are we sharing our views with our listeners?
Well, because we want our listeners to realize that it may take time, but with some simple knowledge about health, they'll be able to make a few changes and dig deeper to take control of their well being and live a more vibrant life.
That's fantastic. But right now, before we get into all of that, we just need to do some housekeeping. Here we go. This is an opinion-based podcast. This is not in any way offered as a diagnosis or treatment for any disease, illness, or infirmity for physical or mental condition or any other condition you may have. We are not doctors or practitioners of any kind. Persons needing medical care should obtain it from a medical practitioner. So, consult your practitioner before making any health decision. The opinions offered here in this podcast are ours alone. Again, we're not doctors, and the banter you're going to be listening to is our view and our view alone. Okay, that's done. We, of course, also want to have an open dialogue with our listeners. So stay tuned to the end of the episode, and we'll let you know all of the ways that we can connect. Welcome, everyone. We are happy to have you here for episode 22. We're going to talk about factors that can affect your blood glucose. Mom was researching for another article she was writing about diabetes and came upon this article by Adam Brown. The article link and book link are going to be in the show notes, though in Adam's article, he mentions 42 factors that can affect blood glucose, and I seriously doubt Mom and I are going to cover them all and put you to sleep. But as we mentioned before, link to the article in our show notes, dive in, look into it. It's pretty cool. So, Mom, let's do this.
Okay, Delaney. Even though I stumbled upon this article while researching diabetes, it is something I feel everyone will be interested in. Just because you don't have diabetes doesn't mean you shouldn't be concerned about your blood sugar levels. We have so many people running around not realizing they are pre-diabetic. Did you know that high blood sugar levels can cause long-term complications? They can. When you have diabetes, your body isn't able to get the sugar from blood into cells or make enough or any insulin. This causes high levels of blood sugar or high glucose levels. The carbohydrates in food cause blood sugar levels to go up after meals. When you eat foods that contain carbohydrates, the digestion process turns them into sugars. These sugars are released into the blood and transported to the cells. The pancreas, a small organ in the abdomen, releases a hormone called insulin to meet the sugar at the cell. Insulin acts as a bridge, allowing the sugar to go from the blood into the cell. When the cell uses the sugar for energy, blood sugar level goes down. Also, it's like a key. It's got to fit into the lock.
Okay.
And that's what insulin does for you. And if you have diabetes, there's either a problem with the pancreas producing insulin or the cells using insulin or both. And a lot of times, I think they're calling that, metabolic syndrome is basically, you have type 3 diabetes now. And, it's the way you eat. And because of what you're eating, the cells cannot uptake the insulin. And that can be reversed by changing your food habits.
Oh, wow. Wait, so the cell, is it just overwhelmed by
It's like a lock and key,
sugar?
and it's not going to let it in, because if you eat, and I hate to say this because I'm not a dietitian or a nutritionist, but like fat deters the uptake of sugar into the cells. So that could be it, like especially if you have polyunsaturated fats, which we talked about before, and you eat fried foods and things like that.
Gotcha.
It really is not a good thing to do. And a lot of those people, if you look at how they eat,
Mm-hmm.
they're either pre-diabetic or metabolic.
So the insulin acts as the bridge,
The key.
but so if the cell isn't like letting the insulin be the key,
It's being
does the
blocked
because
by
the
something.
insulin, does it get like used up in that exchange? Because or else, so if it's not getting used up, is it, do you like get a buildup of insulin? Is that bad?
That I have no idea.
Okay.
What it is you get a
It
buildup
went
of
meta.
sugar, and your
Okay.
body keeps trying to pump out the insulin, and it's not getting a reaction from the cell.
Yeah.
So something's blocking that cell from uptaking the sugar. And see, I'm not an expert on this, but type 1 diabetics, like your friend,
Yes.
the pancreas isn't producing the insulin. It's just
Right. Yeah. So she
you
has
need
to
that.
take insulin. Yeah.
Type 2, type 3, now that they call it metabolic syndrome. It's your pancreas is fine, it's producing the insulin, but something's being resistant for some reason. Your cells are not uptaking
Huh.
the insulin to let the sugar in.
Yeah.
And that a lot of times has to do with what you eat. And if you eat fried foods or a lot of carbs and, just things that, well, I should say, prepackaged,
Yeah.
yeah, highly processed foods usually can cause that. And a lot of people just literally by changing their diet and eating real food, whole food, non-processed food, can reverse type 2 diabetes, pre-diabetic, metabolic syndrome. So it's worth giving that a shot.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Okay, so a CDC study published in 2014 noted that 29 million persons in the United States had diabetes, with 86 million classified as having pre-diabetes, nearly a third of the US adult population. That's crazy. So
Mm.
a third of us are going around not even realizing that we have high blood sugar. So, and I think this will get everyone's attention. New research finds high blood sugar levels to correlate with COVID-19 mortality, even in people with no history of diabetes. The findings suggest the need for early blood glucose screenings in people with SARS-CoV-2 infections. There is a link to that article in the show notes as well. And briefly, the article stated that because excess sugar in the blood is linked to type 2 diabetes, a major risk factor for severe COVID-19 and death, a team of researchers in Spain has investigated whether high blood sugar levels alone correlate COVID-19 related mortality. The results of their study appear in the journal Annals of Medicine. So Dalaney, you can read what the researchers found in this study.
Okay, so the researchers used a national registry to analyze data from 11,312 COVID-19 positive patients in 109 hospitals in Spain from March 1st to May 31st, 2020. The average patient was around 67.06 years old. It's very specific. They were around 67 years old and 57.1% were male, which again, I don't know when it comes to people how you can have not exact numbers, but okay. The researchers considered the patients to have diabetes if there was a record of the diagnosis or evidence of diabetes medication use before hospital admission. So only 18.9% of patients in the study had diagnosed diabetes. Blood sugar levels were taken upon hospital admission, and the team used this information to categorize the patients into three groups: normal, high, and very high blood sugar. One of the most prominent findings was that as blood sugar level increased, the risk of death from COVID-19 also rose. This association was not affected by a history of diabetes. Of the 11,312 patients included in the study, 2,289, or 20.2%, died of COVID-19, which is sad. Among this group, 41.1% had very high blood sugar levels, while 15.7% had normal levels. So patients with very high blood sugar levels were admitted to hospitals for slightly longer than those with normal levels. They also required more intensive care unit attendance and more invasive or non-invasive ventilation.
So there are plenty of studies out there showing that high blood glucose levels lead to higher all-cause mortality. So I think it's pretty important that everyone should care about their blood sugar levels. And how do you think people can find out this information for themselves, Delaney?
Your blood, I mean, you bought one of those little tester thingies to poke your finger. I think also it's if you eat a bunch of, like, okay, Valentine's Day is coming up. So we all know how we feel after we eat the entire box of chocolates because we're like, oh, just one turns into all. So that feeling you have after is where your body is overwhelmed by sugar. So if you feel that a lot, that could be another way to monitor your blood sugar levels.
Well, that's
At
true.
least
I did.
understand them.
Yes, I did buy the little kit that you poke your finger and take your blood sugar with, and
Yeah.
I think everybody should. They're not expensive. The little strips are, but just to get an idea. Well, actually, Walmart
Yeah.
sells them, and they're not that expensive.
Though my friend would be annoyed with you here, though, because she has complained how, like, people who don't have diabetes buy up all that stuff and make it more expensive and less available for her who needs it. So
Well, I I don't totally agree with that. I
yeah.
think it's kind of like Kotex and tampons. People know we need them, and
Oh, so that's,
the
yeah.
price is unreal, more than like a pair of jeans. You're like, really, for this for this?
For
And
what tampons are you buying? Oh my gosh, made out of
they're
gold?
expensive. They're
That's why you
expensive.
gotta. I'm gonna put a shout out for Flex Cup. It's pretty great. You use less, like about the same amount in a box as tampons, but they last longer and they don't give you toxic shock syndrome and all the other stuff that can happen with tampons. You're welcome.
Okay. Well,
So in the long run, they're cheaper.
you'll have to put that in the show notes. But what I'm saying about what your friend is saying is, I think when we really need things, those things are usually more expensive, and it's the health, the insurance companies that control that,
Yeah.
and the people that make it, kind of like that one shot. What was it? For anaphylaxis, and it used to
Oh,
be,
the EpiPen?
yeah, something really cheap, and then another company either bought it or something, and I don't know, tripled or quadrupled whatever the price, and
Really?
made
Oh
it
my
so
gosh.
unreasonable.
Wow.
But they know that if you have a prescription for it, that the insurance company is going to pick it up. So it's
Gotcha.
I I think it's all about money and
Yeah.
what people
And now she has this really cool thing that just like she gets her readings on her phone from it. It's like an implant in her abdomen or whatever that she has
yeah,
to change out, but like it, yeah, so she doesn't have to prick
yeah.
her finger as much.
And
She just
she
has
is
that.
a type 1 diabetic. So it's
Yes.
very, very important. Not
Yes.
that it's not important for anybody else, but
No,
it's definitely life or death with her.
it is.
But we're basically going to talk about type 2 diabetes, or just be familiar with your blood sugar, because what struck me is people don't realize that they are pre-diabetic and they are carrying around high blood sugars. And the weird thing about me is, with this kit, I figured, and I was telling someone this the other night, and I probably shouldn't share it, but I can eat gummy bears and my sugar will be fine in the morning. But if I eat tubers and starches, slow burn
Mm-hmm.
carbs, my blood sugar is over 100 in the morning. And that's
Yeah.
well over, it could be 10 hours that I haven't eaten, or even 12, 6, yeah, 12 hours. And so and we might be getting into it in here. Yeah, because the TED Talk, it was very interesting. We put the link in
Okay.
about your microbiome. And I thought, well, it nailed it, because a lot of times I'll figure things out about my body.
Mm-hmm.
And then months or years down the road, I find something to validate that, which would be
Okay.
this TED Talk we have listed in the show
Yeah.
notes. Okay, so let's move on to the article I stumbled upon. And again, you know, this can be for diabetics, type 2 diabetes, type 3 metabolic syndrome, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So people with type 1 diabetes, this is good information, because then you know how to control your insulin, how you may need more or less. So I
Right.
would definitely dig into the article that we have listed in the show notes. For pre-diabetics and type 2, it's interesting, and you may be able to change your habits and be able to lower your blood sugar, and then no longer take insulin or any kind of medication for that.
Yeah.
But again, you would have to check with your doctor. So the article talks about 6 categories: food, medication, activity, biological, environmental, and behavior and decisions. So Dalaney's going to talk about the first one, food.
Okay. So food, yay. The food category contains carbohydrate quantity, carbohydrate type, fat, protein, caffeine, alcohol, meal timing, dehydration, and your personal biome. Okay, so carbs. Carbohydrates affect blood glucose the most, and higher glycemic carbs tend to spike the blood glucose more rapidly, which after like living around my friend who has the type 1 diabetes, a lot of food puts the glycemic index number on the food, especially if it's like a low one, so they can like brag about it. So that can actually be on a lot of wrappers of the food you're eating. So that's how you can start figuring out what that means to you, like a candy bar versus something else. So it's best to get high fiber to total carb ratio, and that has a lower impact on blood glucose.
And I forgot what I was going to say when you
Yeah.
said you went to sleep after you ate the whole box of chocolates.
I didn't say I went to sleep. I just said like after you eat a whole box of chocolates, that's what a
Yeah.
sugar rush feels like.
Yeah, and that is an indication if you get sleepy after you eat, especially people who eat high carbs, because you put so much sugar into your body and the insulin's going, and then you actually crash because
Yes.
you've put out so much insulin to take care of that sugar. Now your body's going, okay, I need more sugar.
Yeah.
Go on what they call a roller coaster. And so if you eat more even keel, like proteins, and make sure you have protein with every meal, and fat, a little bit of fat, things like that, it's not quite the roller coaster.
And it's kind of like the same thing with kids. Like we had some friends over this week and we gave their kids like lemonade slushies. And they like bounced around after that, but then they like a little while after bouncing around, they like were both just like sitting on the couch ready to go to sleep. So
Was that Dell's lemonade?
it is, it's so good.
Sugary.
Shout out to Dells, it's amazing.
Well, you have a lot of things to put in the show notes.
Yes. Okay, so now fatty foods tend to make people with diabetes more insulin resistant. Do you know why? That was the end of that section. I want to know more.
Yeah, I've read a few books. It says like the fat coats the cell. So when you have fat in your blood, it's then hard to open any kind of lock. So the insulin's sitting there. There's enough insulin,
Okay.
but the cells are kind of like in a coating.
Gotcha.
That's what I've read. And I do notice that because I'm on a higher protein diet and I've tried keto,
Yeah.
but I cannot do it. Keto, all the fat just, I do eat fat. If it's on like the steak I eat or the avocado, whatever it's in naturally, I have no problem eating it, but I don't add fat. to my diet. Some people do oils and things like that, but
Gotcha.
I have trouble with that.
Okay, that's interesting. And every time we talk about like the blood travel and the cells traveling and this and that, I think of like that animated movie Osmosis Jones with Bill Murray.
I haven't seen that.
Oh my gosh. It was like probably a Disney Channel movie. But Osmosis Jones is like this white blood cell, but they have the body set up like a city. So he's like, since he's a white blood cell, he's like a cop, and he's trying to find like this virus that has like gotten into the body and is like wrecking havoc. And then that's the animated part, and then you like pan out from that and it's like Bill Murray in the real world like getting sick and like, you know, not feeling good and like sneezing on people, and you know, which is totally a faux pas now, but so it's pretty funny. But that's how I imagine the inside of a body now. I always think of it in like Osmosis Jones world.
Oh, that is so cool.
Anyways,
I'll have to look that up.
So when you were talking about like the fat coating the cells, I'm just imagining like these like big bulky fat dudes like, you know, blocking out the like little tiny insulin guy trying to get in somewhere. Anyways, okay, so now protein. Pure protein powders that have no carbs can actually increase blood glucose quite a bit, which
That's an
eye
opener.
Yeah.
Me.
Why is that? Again, no explanation.
I don't know.
We don't know why.
I do. Well, it's a powder, but I do know that anything, your body needs protein. That's the building blocks of everything. But when your body needs sugar, which it does run off of, it will turn anything except fat into sugar. It can turn protein into sugar, carbs into sugar. Fat is fat. Fat's good for your brain. So that's the only thing I can think of is if you need sugar and you do just pure protein powders, then it's going to turn it in there. And but I don't know.
Okay.
Anybody else knows, please write us.
Okay. So, everyone's favorite thing, caffeine. Many studies have suggested that caffeine increases insulin resistance and stimulates the release of adrenaline, which makes sense because that's like what keeps you awake from caffeine, right? Because it's
cortisol and adrenaline go up.
Yeah, because you still can like feel tired, you just can't fall asleep, right? Isn't it? Yeah, I don't know, I don't drink coffee, so I don't.
So, you know, it affects your adrenal glands. So yeah, some people can drink coffee and go to sleep, other people can't. So I'm very sensitive to caffeine, so but some people aren't.
Yeah. Okay. So then normally the liver releases glucose to maintain blood sugar levels. But when you're drinking alcohol, it's obviously more busy breaking down the alcohol that you're consuming.
Well, the liver is, yeah.
Yes. And actually, my husband just did blood work, and he did it like a day or two after New Year's. And his liver, like the liver function, like basically in the blood work, it showed up that his liver is working harder than usual. And they like put that on his blood work. So he was upset with me and his brother because he drank the least out of all of us for the holiday, and apparently his showed up on his blood work. And
you know, he needs to redo that in 6 months, because it could also just mean that young, and it may be that his liver does have issues, and there are a lot of liver detoxes you can do, and it may not just be 2 days after you were drinking a lot.
Okay.
Because your liver should be able to rebound, is what I'm saying. I don't know how much you guys drank.
It's probably better that way.
But yeah, I would be concerned about that at his age, if something like that, because I was in the military and that's all we did was drink overseas, and my liver never gave me a problem.
Yeah. His body just like does, I feel like it does everything slowly though.
Well, there's probably a reason for that.
I know.
But he's not really one to really care.
Well, yeah. Well, he's trying. He tried to look into some stuff earlier. So, anyway. Okay. So the liver is busy breaking down the alcohol, so it's not worried so much about releasing glucose, and it reduces that output of glucose into the bloodstream. So this can also lead to a drop in blood sugar. But if you drink sugary alcohol drinks, I like how you have it say like I do.
Dalaney, I know. I was
like my mom does. Excuse me.
I do not. I never. Tequila is not sugary. I did the other stuff
You're
over the
nuts
holidays.
and berries.
That's the only drink that I had drank in years.
And you really like champagne. I would like to point out I like
I get extra
sodas.
dry champagne. I get extra dry champagne. So when I
do too. I like vodka soda with a splash of crayon is my go-to. So that is not super sugary.
When you and your friend go out, we all go out, you guys order the most sugary drinks. It is unreal.
Oh my gosh, maybe one of them, but like if I'm like out that night drinking, then I'm drinking vodka soda splash of crayon because I know that also. Anyways, that can obviously lead to a rise in blood sugar, but this is bad. I should it's like, can you mix it? Can you have like a really non-sugary alcohol drink followed by a sugary one and like back and forth and it'll like even it out?
Even it out. Well, I don't know. What you're supposed to do is drink a drink and then drink water and then drink another drink and drink. I always have water.
That's very important.
Well, I drink a lot of water.
Yes, you do. But yeah, it's very important while you're drinking. Okay, so also mealtime. Mealtime can affect your blood sugar as well. Eating a late dinner with high carbs and fat leads to high overnight blood sugars. So try to eat a lighter, earlier dinner unless you live in Italy and they just magically eat at 9 p.m. and still look stunning. So we don't know why.
Well, they do. They enjoy, the beauty of their surroundings and they enjoy eating, and it's, a social gathering. It's not just that we do in our cars and everywhere else. We inhale the food and just move on and don't realize what we ate.
Yeah, that's true. So, okay, back to water. Dehydration increases levels of the hormone vasopressin, which causes the liver to produce blood sugar. So you do need to stay well hydrated.
Dalaney.
Wow. I'm getting better about it. Okay, lastly, there's a lot of ongoing research on the impact of gut bacteria, which is your microbiome, and insulin sensitivity. So Mom added a TED Talk to the show notes, which is called What is the Best Diet for Humans? An interesting talk on how the microbiome affects the glucose levels after a meal. Plus, Mom and I will obviously have to do an episode on the microbiome and how important it is to your health.
Yeah, I strongly urge everyone to watch that TED Talk because it explains a lot. Like I said, certain things I can eat thinking my blood sugar is going to be sky high in the morning, it's low. And then other things I eat, it's high. And this talk discusses that, like how some people, white rice will make their blood sugar sky high, where other people it won't. And the same with ice cream, and the same with white bread. And it has a lot to do with your microbiome, which is very interesting. It's our own little colony of bugs and our friendly and faux bacteria.
It's true, because I know that like I too can eat gummies and be fine, but if I have just a little bit of pasta, I'm like, I can't function. Well, I was very bad in college when I was trying to figure everything out. So I guess I have worked on my microbiome because now I can eat a little bit of pasta and it's not as bad, but it used to like get me drunk.
Yeah, that's definitely candida,
Yes.
overgrowth, things like that.
Right. So it's better now, but yeah.
Okay, so the next factor that we will discuss is medication factors.
Ooh.
Basically, if you're taking medications and you have diabetes, you should read the inserts to see if there is a contraindication to the diabetes medications you are taking, or if you have to take the medications separate from the diabetes medications. There are a few well-known precautions. One is with steroids. Steroids like prednisone can significantly increase blood glucose levels, so be careful. And with niacin, vitamin B3, studies show it increases blood glucose levels modestly.
Also nice and can cause you to feel like you have sunburn and your mom doesn't tell you what's happening when you take it.
Oh, I love they make non-flush niacin now, but I loved it when they didn't and you give it to people.
That's so mean.
It would freak them out.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, because it was like what, Thanksgiving, I think, so you gave it to me. It was really cold outside, but then all of a sudden I felt like I had sunburn over my entire body, like instantly after
And
taking it.
it doesn't last that long.
Oh my gosh, it was the worst hour of my life.
Dramatic. It's like 5 minutes. And it's fun when you're young and you have to entertain
Nope.
yourself with your children.
Oh my gosh. Wait, you did it when I was a baby to yourself?
No.
Okay. I guess we're going to talk about activity factors now. So, light activity can have a surprising glucose lowering effect. So, walking after meals has a positive effect on lowering blood glucose levels.
Yeah, and you know where we learned to walk after meals?
Germany?
Yep.
Well, that's because you had to like walk into the forest for the good restaurants anyways.
But the Germans, they walk after they eat. It's great. And make a pastime out of it.
Yes.
And
with their Wanderstock.
Yes. And remember,
doesn't it have a name? It has like a name in
yeah, I think it does.
German, just like walking around, like it's specifically for walking around like with your family, just like a chill walk has a name in German.
Oh yeah, yeah. And you get little badges when you do certain.
Oh, on the so the Wanderstock, the walking stick, yeah.
But again, all-cause mortality, they say, it's lower if you have lower glucose levels and blood sugar levels. So walking is great.
Yeah. And then this might sound strange, but high intensity exercise like sprinting or weightlifting can actually sometimes raise blood glucose. And this stems from the adrenaline response, which tells the body to release stored glucose. Sometimes it can lower the blood glucose. It really depends on if you're exercising early in the morning or on an empty stomach. So it would be best to check your blood glucose after exercising and see how much of an effect it has on you. And that's the one thing my friend with her monitor that she has, she like can't take it seriously after, like during and after when she exercises because of this, I think, because it like, it can raise or lower. So the readings go kind of wonky on her monitor thing. So she actually has to like test and do the finger prick thing to figure out what her blood sugar levels actually are, because exercising like psychs out her monitor.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about some biological factors that can affect blood glucose levels. Many studies have found that little sleep leads to higher blood sugars, insulin resistance, weight gain, increased food intake, and more carb cravings. I seem to do well on 6 hours of sleep, but lately I've been sleeping more. It is important to get sleep because that's when your body repairs itself.
I think most people have, stayed up late on the weekend doing whatever, and then you notice that you're like, I could really go for a midnight snack of like something really bad for me. Because
Oh,
the carb I don't know. I get the
I-
carb cravings if I stay up late. I'm like, yep, it's time for French fries or,
that's never happened to me.
Really? Oh my
I don't
gosh. I have
know.
to
In
like
fact,
stop myself if I find myself staying up late. I'm like, I can't just like sit here and eat a whole bag of chips because that's what I really want right now because I have the carb cravings.
oh wow. No, mine is between 3 p.m. and 7 p.m. I like to eat. And then once it hits 7, I think I've just trained myself to, I don't want to eat after that.
Yeah.
Once I get
Well,
off
even
work late.
remember when I was a kid, I went through a phase as a teenager where we'd have dinner and then 2 hours later I was like starving again. I'd make myself more food. Do you remember that?
You probably had tapeworms.
Okay then.
Now that you've gotten rid of those.
I don't know
Okay.
about that.
So, sorry, it's all that undercooked pork I gave you.
No, but I think it might be the carb craving thing because I'd make myself like I'd take a piece of bread and put like cheese and pepperoni on it and throw it in the toaster oven all the time. Make myself little mini pizzas.
Um, okay, so you're going to do a parasite cleanse, right?
Well, that was 10 years ago. I'm fine now.
Okay, so stress and illness can cause the body to release adrenaline, glucagon, growth hormone, and cortisol. As a result, more glucose is released from the liver, and the body can become less sensitive to insulin. So, turn off the news, read a book, and do deep breathing. The dawn phenomenon also occurs in people with and without diabetes. It refers to the body's daily production of hormones around 4 and 5 a.m.
Huh.
During this time, the body makes less insulin and produces more glucagon, which is a hormone formed in the pancreas, which promotes the breakdown of glycogen to glucose in the liver, which raises blood sugar. So some people do have higher blood sugar in the morning due to that.
So can that because I feel like around 4 or 5 a.m. sometimes I don't know if this is related. I'll wake up from like getting too warm under the covers and have to like push off some covers, and then later, like 6 or 7 a.m., I get cold again and like put them back on. Does that have anything to do with this?
That's interesting. You should look into that.
Yeah.
So allergies may cause higher glucose levels due to the stress hormone cortisol. And some women report having higher blood sugar levels a few days prior to their period starting, but notice a sharp drop in sugar levels after. So something an individual may want to check,
Mm-hmm.
So some notice higher, some notice, a sharp drop. So again, that's what a glucose monitor will help you out with.
Yeah.
Untreated celiac may contribute to irregular blood glucose levels. That's very interesting. We know a few people with celiac. Some studies suggest that smoking can increase insulin resistance, and people with diabetes who smoke are more likely than non-smokers to have trouble with insulin dosing and managing their diabetes. And that makes sense. Yeah.
But now let's talk about the environmental factors that may be affecting your blood sugar levels. So, research has shown that cold exposure, I'm assuming like the weather cold, yeah, can improve insulin sensitivity in type 2 diabetes. So I guess it's currently snowing outside of me, so
Are you serious?
yeah.
Oh, it's sunny here.
Oh, well that's nice. On the other spectrum, sunburn stresses the body, and in turn, it can increase blood glucose. That's pretty crazy. And then higher altitudes, like in Colorado, can affect your insulin. So you need to check if you live or visit a high altitude place. It may be causing your blood glucose to go up or down.
Yeah, I find that interesting.
That is interesting.
Especially like the sunburn, because if you and your friend are out at the beach, like you guys were in Bethany Beach not long ago, and you get
Yeah.
sunburn and you're diabetic.
She might, well, she's fair skinned, but she wears like all the UV resistant clothes when she goes to the beach. So I don't
Oh,
know.
that's good.
I don't know. I could ask her if it's because of like the diabetes management or if it's just because fair skin and she doesn't feel like constantly having to put on sunscreen.
Yeah, you'll have to let us know.
Yeah.
Okay, and finally, behavioral and decision-making factors. More frequent blood glucose checks is a key factor in diabetes decision-making and learning. Keep a diary of what you are doing and eating and see if you can learn from that. Plate and bowl size makes the same amount of food look more filling when served on a smaller plate.
And the speed at which you eat is important too, right?
Oh, definitely. Definitely. It should take you 20 minutes. You should enjoy it. Maybe not scrambled eggs, but your meal should at least take 20 minutes. You should literally force yourself. You chew and you swallow. You enjoy everything, that you're eating. I always sit down when I'm eating. I don't eat on the run. I try to enjoy whatever I have.
Yeah.
So keep junk food out of sight. Visual prompts in the environment directly impact what you choose to eat. That's so true. And it's hard when you have someone in the house that doesn't respect that and they just eat ice cream and whatever all the time. And you're trying to learn how to eat better. So that is kind of hard. But it is very true. If you keep everything kind of tucked away, it's easier that way instead of out on the counter. It's easier to prioritize what feels good now rather than the longer term benefits of keeping blood sugars in range. And I think that's how our society is. We don't want to wait. We just do it now to feel good. But if you don't keep your blood sugar in range, you'll start amputating toes and legs and everything else. No, really. I mean, and losing your eyesight and heart disease. I mean, high blood sugar causes so many issues.
Yeah.
And I see people, I know one person that died not all that long ago, and a few people, and they just keep amputating, but they won't change the way they eat because they like their cinnamon rolls in the morning and they like this. And that's another episode, but I was just, that sugar addiction podcast that's going on now, how they hire people to get you addicted. They know the chemicals, they know the amount of sugar, they know the amount of salt and fat, and they literally engineer foods so you will be addicted to it. And it's not for your benefit because, again, you have heart disease and, people are overweight and diabetes, and this mostly comes from your food habits. Mm-hmm. So focus on what is working and should be replicated. Forgive yourself for the mistakes and move on. When I was doing my health coach certification, that's what they pounded that into our heads because, you have clients that just get on this wheel and they feel depressed and they just continue down that road, where if you just go, okay, if you know you're going to give in to that piece of chocolate cake or whole cake, whatever, sit down and enjoy it and eat it. And then, get up the next day and, forgive yourself for the mistakes and move on and try to do better.
Yeah.
So last but not least, a challenging family or social environment can directly impact decisions and blood sugars.
Oh yeah. Stress eating is real. We know it's real.
Yes, we do. So one way to combat that is, after you've been doing this for a while and you want to change, just figure out a way to de-stress in a way that you can, and start trying to do that instead of go for the food first. Yeah. And then that will become a habit instead of reaching for the food.
Right. Yeah.
But everything takes time.
Yeah. So like the walking we said is like a good thing for your blood sugar level. So if you're like, oh, like I really want to eat a bunch of bad food, you're like, well, maybe I'll take a walk and like think about my day and like do some deep breathing. So just try to
and that
yourself.
actually helps. And then even if you get back from your walk saying, you know what, I still want, that, pepperoni or pizza or whatever, I'm gonna ice cream, you'll probably have less.
Right. And that's a big step too. It's okay to like
less will
yourself. Yeah. And two, a lot of times your body uses the like I'm hungry signal when you are dehydrated because you won't listen to the I'm thirsty signal. So your body's like, fine, like, because you can get some water out of food. But a lot of times if you feel that way and you just drink like a whole cup of, glass of water and wait a few minutes, you're like, oh, I'm good now. Like I just needed water.
I have read that over and over, and that has never worked for me.
Oh, it totally works for me because in the morning I'm like, oh, like I wake up starving and then I just drink like a glass of water. I'm like, okay, like I'm good for a couple more hours.
I was going to say it may not work for me because I drink a lot of water.
You do. Yes, you.
So when I'm hungry, I'm hungry.
You're actually hungry. Well, thanks everyone for listening. And again, we want to hear from you guys. We always want to hear from you guys. Please, please, please reach out to us. And here are just a few ways that you can do that. You can reach out via Instagram and Facebook. Find us at Salty About Health. Even Snapchat at Salty Health. You can email us at saltyabouthealth@gmail.com. Or if you just want to find all that in one place, check out our website, saltyabouthealth.com. We've got all the ways for you to listen and connect there. And finally, if you like what you hear today, leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen. We really appreciate it. So, Mom, if they want to hear from you on social media, where can they find you?
Okay, I am a certified health coach and I do coach one-on-one. So if you're interested, you can contact me at mary@feedyourselfhealthy.com. I also do research for people who are interested in finding alternative approaches to do in conjunction with the health issue or illness their doctor is treating them for. So again, just reach out to me at mary@feedyourselfhealthy.com.
And of course, I'll be the one mainly keeping an eye on the social media. So always happy to chat with you guys via the Salty Network. Also, just want to shout out our intro and outro music. It is by Yule, and you can find her at www.yulearts.com. That's EULARTS. You can also find her on Instagram at Yule_arts or Spotify and YouTube. Check her out. Her piano music and everything else is amazing. And until next time, stay salty.